Thank you. My name is Chido, and I come from Zimbabwe. My name Chido means passion, and I love my name. I'm a little bit nervous. Because I'm sharing a story that's very personal to me. And it's a story I've shared several times, but every time it's new. But I'll try my best. I grew up in Zimbabwe, and from when I was 7 years old, I learned to know what it is to be considered as a young girl that is without a future, by relatives and by people in my community. I lived through circumstances where I could easily find every reason to be selfish, to lose hope, to not care what happens around me. My highest achievement was reduced to marrying a man so I can have food and I can leave the homestead of my abusive uncles. I had to put up with different kinds of abuse to be tolerated in the homestead where I grew up. Threats to be sent away from the village and to go look for my father were the price I would pay for speaking out to sexual abuse and any other form of physical and emotional abuse. I remember seeing my mother wasting away from HIV and AIDS, and we traveled from one family, from one relative to another to put up with them while I was waiting for my mother who was fighting for her health. When I was 7 years old, she lost the battle to HIV and AIDS, and I lost my chance to be a child. I had to become an adult. And all the hope I had of my mother coming back one day and that I would tell her about everything that had happened when she was fighting for her life, when there was hope that she would come back. I lost all the hope I had for achieving that. I found myself at the age of 7 with the responsibility of having to take care of my little brother and my grandmother, who was nearly blind. 2 years ago, my grandmother was 115 years old when she passed away. I became a mother at the age of 7. And I would come to know about the responsibilities that a mother should have at such an early age. I would learn not only to grow food, to look for food, but I would learn to build a hut where I would put up with my little brother and my grandmother to cut grass to thatch it. I would come to know about hunger more than I needed to know at the age of 7. I would come to learn to fight it more than what a normal 7-year-old should do. I remember the look on the face of my little brother when he was hungry. And I also remember that pain that comes with hunger had a way of showing also on my grandmother's face. With all the responsibilities that I had at the age of 7, my uncles and their friends from the community where I grew up, they set out to explore their sexual fantasies with a little girl who had no idea what was going on. regardless of the fact that I had lost my mother to AIDS. I became very angry at an early stage of my life. I was angry at my mother for dying. I was angry at her for not telling me who my father was. And I was angry at my father. And I made up my mind that when I have the chance to find him, I'm going to be so mad. I call it up. I always say I would tell him a piece of my mind because I don't know how to express it. I was also angry at my mother because the time that I remember with her, she'd put up with a man who made her cry while I watched, a man who left her soon after she fell ill. At such early stages of my life, I was sure I would hate men for the rest of my life. I would make my uncles pay for what they did to me. They would pay for it with their lives. I was also sure that I was not going to get married. At the age of 8, watching how I had to struggle, how my little brother had to struggle, how we had to go without food so many nights, I told myself, this is something that I would like to stop when I grow older. I want to be able to reach out to other orphans and make sure that they never have to experience what I experienced. This hope of helping other orphans made me stronger. It made me have something to look forward to every day, even though when I had no idea how I would achieve it. At 9, I decided I could not afford anymore to go to school, come back home, and try to do all the things that I had to do. So I dropped out of school so I could focus on taking care of my grandmother and my little brother. At the age of 10, the closest cousin sister I had offered me help. She came to me and she said, "We see that you're struggling. We would like to offer some help. We have a friend who has a blue car, 2 sisters, and he's been struggling to find a wife. We think this could be your chance." And I thought about my grandmother and my little brother, and I didn't make the meeting that I was supposed to have with this man and agree to marry him so I could have food. When I did that, my sister came to me and she said, "I offered you the help that I could give you. You turned that down. From now on, you have to know that you're on your own." I was supposed to marry a man that I didn't know. I'd never seen him before. It didn't matter if he loved me or he just wanted to have a woman, a girl. It didn't matter if he was a criminal or not, if I would be respected by him or not, given that I had suffered already from men. What was important was that I would have food on my plate. At the age of 11, I got an invitation to learn to farm mushrooms. And this was an invitation by what is called the Zeri Foundation. I had never heard about mushroom farming before. And I had only gone to school 5 years. This is primary level education, and I'd just done 5 years. And I thought, farming mushrooms is definitely much more attractive than marrying a man just because he has a blue car and 2 sisters. I accepted the invitation, and I was amongst 15 girl orphans that were trained to farm mushrooms. We had the training, we came back to our villages, we grew mushrooms, and the most joy I experienced was to be able to feed my little brother and my grandmother without having to come home after dark and get a beat from my uncles. But because mushroom farming was very new, Nobody in my village had heard about farming mushrooms. The 15 of us became the most popular people in the village for the first time. And all the men suddenly noticed that, boy, here's some girls who can do something. And as an orphan girl, knowing that this is your one chance where someone walks up to you and they ask you to be their wife, you take anything that comes to you. In less than 6 months, 13 of the girls got married, and they stopped growing mushrooms. Well, because it was my second chance to be tried, I gave it up. I said, I'm not getting married. I continued growing mushrooms, and I was able to continue to feed my grandmother and my little brother. And then what happened without me having foreseen it was that I was able to make enough money to feed my little brother and my grandmother, but also we made enough money to send other orphans to school. And this for me was the biggest thing that could happen. I had a dream when I was 8 years old to help other orphans, and I had no idea how I could do it. And at the age of 11, I could do it. I told myself, I'm not going to take this money and go to school. I'm going to stay outside school. I will continue to learn about mushroom farming. And what I would do is try and simplify this to make sure that more and more people can learn about it. And if it's possible to change your life by converting waste to mushrooms, feeding my grandmother and my little brother, and reaching out to other orphans, and possibly stopping their uncles from bossing them around, then I would do it. At the age of 16, I decided I would go back to school. But I still continued my work with mushrooms, reaching out to orphans and to women. I was the oldest in my class, and they called me a grandmother, and I had to stick it out. At the age of 19, I suffered post-traumatic stress. I didn't know what that was. All I know is that I had pain. And I went to a hospital where they diagnosed me with post-traumatic stress, and they also delivered what seemed in that moment very bad news. I was responsible for my own healing. I had no idea how to heal myself. They gave me 2 options. You could talk about it, or you could write about it. I so much wanted to get over this and live the life I dreamed of when I was 8, the life I had a taste of when I was 11 years old. So I said, if I am supposed to do this, well, I have a history of being stubborn enough to try things out, even though when I don't have any assurance that it will go through. So I said I would do it. And through writing my biography, which is titled The Future of Hope, I was able to deal with the pain from my childhood, and I was able to learn from that to be stronger and to get the inspiration that I need to be able to continue with the work that I had become so attached to. Sharing my story was one of the ways that I was able to deal with some of the pains that I experienced. Despite all the hardships, at the age of 19, I had the chance to choose not to be a victim of my circumstances, not to be a victim of what happened to me when I was 7, when I could not control anything. I learned one of the most important things in my life, and this was to forgive and to learn to give love where I had withheld it. I didn't have anymore the desire to punish my uncles for what they did to me. I didn't want to go and find my father and be mad at him. I wanted something different. I learned to redefine who my family is, beyond relation by blood, and slowly a family has built around me, and a community continues to build around me. Step by step, I learned to define my place in the world, reaching out to people in communities around Africa, orphans and women in India, in South America, and also inspiring social entrepreneurship in both developed and developing nations. Now, this is not something that was foreseen when I was 7 or when I was supposed to marry so I can get food when I was 10. A lot of you have had stories about Africa and the conditions in which people thrive. It is estimated that over 50 million children in Africa are orphans. And I can tell you that all these children have to go through what I went through or worse. Amidst all the other adversities that face Africa as a continent, these children need to be taken care of. They need a future like all of us. But one other truth that we all know is that the world at large is in a crisis. And we are in a crisis because we lost touch with the source of our resilience. And this is family, community, and of course our planet. We need, as never before, all the citizens of this world to step up and take the lead. We need no more victims. We need people who make the decision to say, I am not what happened to me when I was 7. And yes, what happened to me made me angry, made me want to fight. But the reason why I'm angry is because I imagined something better. I imagined peace, I want it. I'm angry because I didn't get it. I imagine a future where everyone is acting responsibly, where everyone has food on their table. People who realize that and go for it. We need no more victims of circumstances. We need no more victims of governments. Coming from Zimbabwe, you obviously know it's so easy to say because the government in Zimbabwe is so bad. I will just sit here and be a little victim of the government. I'm not going to make it because I was abused when I was 7. We don't need that anymore. We need all the people from different walks of life to step up to the challenges of our times. The imbalances of systems that we've placed for so long, people who can look at the adversities and see hope and get inspiration, get strength to create a future for everyone. Orphans and the unreached of Africa and the world at large need not to be encouraged anymore to be victims. No more handouts. We are not in a time for handouts anymore. We're in a time where we need to find the places where there is need, and we mentor the people, everyone. We help them to stand up and do something to make a difference. I learned that the way to grow out of victimhood is through service to others. And now at 26, I'm working to put up a foundation which has the same title as my biography, The Future of Hope. This is because when I was 20, I was older. I wanted to understand more what is the future of hope. And this was not in the text that I wrote from a point of pain. And I decided I would put this into a practical demonstration. And the future of hope will serve to encourage the orphans from Africa to stand up to the challenges of this time. And this is thanks to the support of the Rotary Kierbergen, I don't pronounce it correctly, my family, of course, and my friends from around the world, and all the experiences that built me up. I have to reorganize something here. I will share with you some of the important things that the Future of Hope will do. The Future of Hope will focus on building capacity and strengthening the willpower of orphans in order for them to step up and take responsibility of themselves, to end abuse, and to contribute to taking care of the environment and the world around them. To make sure that orphans and the unreached of Africa are provided with exposures from which they can choose how they want to get involved and become responsible citizens, not victims. The Future of Hope will also initiate an understanding and appreciation of the fact that the future of hope is dependent on what each one of us can contribute when we're given the chance to contribute it at the best of our potential, regardless of our backgrounds. I stand here today, I dream of an achievement that is bigger than just punishing my uncles and all men for the pains they caused during my childhood, or just having food on my plate, or a man with a blue car. I dream of a future that is characterized by resilience, respect, responsibility, and involvement of all people, regardless of their backgrounds. I know this is possible. It is the future of hope, and it is the future for everyone. Thank you.